Ohio Republican Governor John Kasich, himself a former Budget Committee chief in Washington, knows a thing or two about this process. What do you think, Governor? I mean, each side afraid to back down, each side now more cemented in its respective position, a week away from a deadline that looks dicey. What are your thoughts?
Well, Neil, look, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. And right now it appears as though there isn't enough will. And remember, I was one of the negotiators and the architect of the 90-cent agreement. Sure. And we went through a lot of tough stuff. But at the end of the day, the will was there to balance the budget. Neil, you know, at the end of the day, people just can't shove something down somebody else's throat. And the Republicans control the House. The Democrats control the White House. So there's going to have to be some give. I mean, I don't know what people are thinking when they think we should just go in default. This would be very, very bad for American families. You know, you look at your 401k would go down. I mean, this is serious stuff.
How likely do you think a default is then, Governor? How likely is a default?
I think it probably will not default, Neil, but I'm not sure. Look, here's one of the things I thought is coming on the show today. What would I say? I'm not in the room, Neil. When you're not in the room, you can pontificate and speculate, but when you're not there, you really don't know. But here's what I think you could push. I think you could push the spending cuts, including entitlement reform, up front. And then I think you can, in fact, close loopholes and lower the rates. And you do that over time so that you're guaranteed the spending cuts. What I worry about, to be honest with you, is you tell a congressional committee that they're going to come up with these savings. I don't think they come up with them unless you know what the specifics of them are. When I was Budget Committee chairman, I developed a program to come up with those savings. So if the committee wouldn't do it, I would do it. And I was their worst fear in that I would actually do their job for them. One of the things I worry about is getting these savings up front, because that is what is scaring the bond markets. That's what's creating a lack of confidence around the world. Can America deal with its spending problem? But we should not take off the table the ability to lower corporate rates and personal rates and close some loopholes. That just ought to come a little later. The spending, the savings should come now. I think that's inherently reasonable. I think, frankly, probably Obama and Boehner were close, but somehow, you know, I wasn't there, but somehow I think something got in the way. But to me, that's a formula that can work. And, Neil, look, I mean, we are so many trillions in the hole. I watched you a little bit over the weekend. You can't let this thing keep lingering because it's my 11-year-olds, your family. People will pay a price for this high debt. We must stop it, but everybody's going to have to give. Pontification, it's just not going to get us there. People need to be responsible for the future of this country. And we did it. I did it out here in Ohio.
I remember when you did it.
We wiped out it.
But you know, Governor, it comes at a time,
we wiped out an $8 billion. Listen, let me wait. One other thing, Neil. We wiped out an $8 billion budget deficit in Ohio, and we reduced taxes. We reformed programs, and guess what happened? Our credit rating improved. We went from negative watch to stable. In other words, when everybody else is going the other way, we're improving. So, you know, stare the problems in the eye. Compromise is part of it. Don't compromise your principles, but put the country first.
All right. Well, the compromise is a big issue on the left and the right. And this was something surprising we saw earlier today. Some Tea Partiers, not all Tea Partiers, gathering outside John Boehner's local offices yesterday. Maybe you can react to this. Take a listen to this.
If we don't raise this debt ceiling on August 2nd, we're going to default. Is that true? No.
For once, we're actually out here in support. You know, we were, I think, upset with the outcome of the continuing resolution negotiations. A great job, and we want to tell them, you know, keep doing what you're doing.
All right, those are some Tea Partiers in support of what John Boehner's doing. There's a conservative bloc building today, governors, you might have heard, opposed to what Speaker Boehner is doing. They say he's caving. What do you say?
Well, I guess what I say is, first of all, nobody should be criticizing John Boehner's conservative credentials. This guy's been a conservative from the day that he took office. He's a small businessman, and he understands what needs to be done. Secondly, I respect the Tea Party. And the reason is that they are worried about this you know, huge debt. And I'm glad there's some people over there saying Boehner's doing a good job. And frankly, I think he's doing as well as he can. You know what I think at the end of the day, Neil? In 1997, when we got our deal done, the far right didn't like it, and the far left certainly didn't like it. So, you know, you get those folks, and moderate. I mean those people who are willing to say, we're going to face up the facts, we're going to deal with this problem. Neil, could you imagine the United States of America announcing that we can't pay our bills, and people think that's okay? Now, that doesn't mean, you don't get up to the 11th hour and deal with it. But at the end of the day, maybe a short-term debt limit, let the president veto it, but just keep sending it back to him. At the end of the day, we can't default. You know it, I know it, and frankly, in the deep hearts of Americans on Main Street, they know it.
We'll watch closely, Governor. Good seeing you, as always.